When I was young, my grandmother would always give me a gift. She'd give me a parakeet. Those are small little birds. You'd keep them in a cage, and I always called them Sweetie. And they were my friend. I could put my finger in there and my little parakeet would sit on my finger. Some of them, however, didn't do the right thing. One of them flew into a frying pan and died. Some of them, after we let them out of the cage, they somehow got out the front door. One of them got caught in a mailbox. So each year at Christmas time, my grandmother would make sure she replaced that little Sweetie with a new parakeet. Well, here's what happened one year. My brother, who was a little bit older than me, never got parakeets. He got something else each year that I didn't know about. When we were a little bit older, he went to the bank and we found out that he had $150 in his savings account. I, of course, said, "How did he get $150 in his savings account?" And my mom said, "Well, Grandma gave him some money each Christmas time." And I said, "Well, what did I get?" And my mom said, "You got parakeets." And I thought, parakeets? And my brother's got $150? Well, I'm going to talk about another little bird. This bird is called a canary. For the next several weeks, we're going to be looking into the book of Galatians, and we're going to call this a book about a canary in a coal mine. So I don't know if you're familiar with little canaries, but they used canaries in coal mines for early warning systems. Here's what happened. A miner could go down into a coal mine. He could be 100 yards down in that coal mine, and he could be working a coal mine, and that could have poisonous gases in there, and that coal miner could be working in there for days and weeks and months without really knowing that he was in poisonous gas. But if you take a canary and you put that canary just 5 yards into a coal mine, and if there's even just the slightest amount of poisonous gas in there, that little canary will fall off his cage. They used canaries as an early warning sign. Now I want you to know that they took those canaries back out most of the time and they could be revived. Here's the book of Galatians. The book of Galatians is a letter by Paul to a group of churches in what is now Turkey. And Paul says to these churches, how in the world did you ever get into the spot you were in? When I left you, Paul says, you were growing and doing great. So Paul is like a canary in a coal mine. You see, Paul was a leading Pharisee before he was saved. Paul was brilliant. Paul's mission in life was to destroy the church and kill Christians. Believe it or not, Paul actually created a lot of orphans and widows. His goal in life was to destroy the church until God came into his life. And then, as God brought him into the church, he used Paul, this killer of the church, to write a majority of the New Testament. And when he writes the book of Galatians, Paul is like a canary in a coal mine. You see, Paul was a leading legalist. He knew all about legalism. And when the Galatians started to get legalistic in their faith and started to be bewitched, it says in the book of Galatians, you know who the first one would be to recognize that change? Was Paul. You see, he was a canary in a coal mine. And when you study the book of Galatians, what you're going to realize is that what Paul is teaching is the instincts of a growing Christian. He wants us to be able to recognize how you can have the kind of instincts that can help you to see something false in your life. The application that you're going to find over the next few weeks is that you're going to learn some instincts. You're going to become a canary in a coal mine as you study the book of Galatians. I do a fair amount of counseling. One of the things I do in counseling, I've counseled some people who were dating before. And what I'll usually do with them after they've had a relationship that ends, a failed relationship, I'll say, okay, when did you know that this relationship might not have been the right relationship? And we'll take them back on a timeline. And they'll say, well, maybe about 6 months into that relationship. And I'll say, really, that was the first sign you ever had that this relationship might not be right? And they'll go, well, maybe a little bit sooner than now. And say, okay, when? And I had one person say, on the very first date. And I said, how did you know he wasn't the right person? And she said, because we walked into a restaurant to eat, he saw a girl that he was dating previously, and he said that he needed to walk her to her car because he wanted to be nice to her. And she said, that was the first sign. You see, the book of Galatians is going to help you to see early warning systems in your Christian life. That person needed to see right then that that wasn't the right person for them to be dating. And they could have known very early on before a lot of hurt. Galatians 5, chapter 6, verse, faith working through love. That's what you're going to learn in the book of Galatians. Come join us over the next month as we study the book of Galatians. It won't put you in a cave. It will put you in what Galatians calls freedom.